What's up? Good morning in War Eagle War Report family. It's your guy, Ike Jones. We are back with another morning drop. Today, we are getting into recruiting. It is getting down to the wire. Early signing day is just a few weeks away. Caleb, our guy from auburnsports.com, is joining us from Auburn Rivals site to give us a little bit of an update. Let's get straight to it. Y'all know how we do War Report style. Let's drop it on them.
You are now listening to the War Report. Drop.
Morning drop. It is Wednesday, November 29th. Hopefully everybody is having a great morning. You got Ike Jones in here with Caleb Jones. No relation, in case you guys didn't know. But we are in here talking a little bit about Auburn recruiting. Before we get into the conversation, you guys should do the necessary. Go ahead and share this video out there in whatever social media platform you frequent. Make sure you at the War Report when you do that. Like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. That definitely helps us out a ton. If you are re-listening to this on podcast, go ahead and share that podcast with somebody. Give us a 5-star review. It definitely helps with all things necessary to keep this great War Report content up in all the algorithms. But Caleb, how are you doing this morning, sir?
Well, we're live, so that's always good. Always just happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely good to be alive. I am not mad at that. But man, this is probably crunch time for you, right? Like you're in here really grinding it out, trying to figure out who's going where, who's sticking and staying with Auburn, who is deciding, they want to flip from somewhere else over to Auburn. Give us an update. Let's start with the class as it stands right now. Since we last talked, Jamonte Waller added to the class. And I don't know that anybody else knew since you were last on here. Let me go through the names quick.
I don't think so.
I can't remember whether or not he had committed already.
I don't remember the last time that I was on. I know they added. I think they've added a couple of guys: Jamonte, Ryan Gee, and then Laquan Robinson.
Yeah.
I think those are the three that they've added since we last talked.
But Gee's a 25 guy, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Gee's a 25, but I mean, still, it's big to pick those up. They got one yesterday too, or no, Monday. I don't know. It all runs together. Like you said, it's crunch time. We're getting close to just an insane time in recruiting where you got early signing day coming up on December 20th. The portal officially opens on December 4th. So you're going to see a lot of moving parts over the next couple of weeks as Auburn tries to figure out what their 85 guys are going to look like for next season. You're going to have guys coming in. You're going to have guys leaving for one reason or another, whether that be graduation or just looking for a better opportunity through the portal. So it's going to be fun to kind of see how Hugh Freeze and the staff kind of puts together their final numbers for the 24 class and how they utilize the portal.
Yeah. So speaking of the transfer portal, and we'll get back into this recruiting class, how involved are you with kind of figuring out whether or not people have interest in the transfer portal? I know the transfer portal not officially open yet, but how involved are you going to be in trying to figure that stuff out?
Well, that's the goal, man, to try and figure out, who's going to be interested in Auburn out of the transfer portal and just, what is Auburn's interest in them, and that's going to be real tough. But because there's so many guys to track. I mean, you're going to have hundreds, thousands of people probably enter their name into the transfer portal. You're going to see a lot of offers go out, I suspect. And so from there, it's just going to be trying to figure out, what are the guys that Auburn really has a good chance at landing out of the portal. And it's going to be tough.
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely revisit that once the portal opens, and it's been open for a little while. But let's focus in on the 24 class and how Auburn can finish strong here. Right now, according to Rivals, Auburn has 18 commits, currently ranked 16th in the overall class rankings. Where do you feel like Auburn is going to land with this class right now? Are there any top prospects that you feel good about them getting a last minute commitment from? And are there any guys in this current class that you feel like may not make it to the finish line?
Yeah. This 24th class, like you said, number 16 right now. I expect that number to go up on signing day. I think we saw it last year, and I think you're going to see it again. Hugh Freeze and his staff do a really good job of closing on these recruitments, especially because you've got a lot of movement right now in the coaching carousel, and sometimes that can affect how a recruit feels about a certain program.
Mm,
And so I think that's a huge thing to their advantage is they're going to try and go after some of the guys. And right now, you're seeing some of their top guys have a little bit of instability. I guess is that the word? I don't know.
instability. It's all good. Use
Instability.
real.
Sorry, it's early. It's the morning.
Yeah.
A little bit of instability in their position. Their position coaches because of
Right.
some changes, with this. So we'll name drop Cam Coleman, obviously. That's the big one. Damian Craig, it appears he's not going to be part of Mike Elko's new staff at Texas A&M. So things get a little bit more interesting there. Florida just parted ways with their defensive line coach. So, maybe the door opens a little bit more for LJ McCrae.
Right.
So these are all things to kind of take into consideration, and Auburn's going to do everything they can to get these guys. So it's just going to be real interesting kind of down the stretch to see how they finish. But I will say I think this class is going to be closer to a top 10 class than a top 15 class, if that makes sense. So
Mhm.
kind of I'm gonna put the under. I'm gonna take the under of 13. I'm gonna take the under 12 and a half.
Okay. Okay. That sounds good. So let's talk about some specific names. You named a couple of them, but I'm going to reference the Walker White recruiting pitch sweatshirt as names that we want to talk about here really quickly. And I'll
Okay.
name the name and you tell me, you know, 1 to 10, 0 to 10, where you feel about Auburn's chances on it right there. Not necessarily a crystal ball, but just like, hey,
Yeah.
I feel good or bad about this. So we'll start with I'm just going to write down the sweatshirt here and go with Beeman. How do you feel about the potential of a flip of Beeman from Alabama?
Jeremiah Beeman. This is a great player, man. Parker has got a ton of guys over there. Beeman's one of those guys on that defensive line. I'll go 4.
Okay.
I'm I'm gonna go for it. I'm a fairly reserved person when it comes to this kind of stuff. When it comes to
That's
flipping,
fair.
just because it's always tough, especially when you have Alabama as the commit,
Hmm.
um, as the commitment. We've seen it so much, just in Auburn's history of it's always been really tough to flip guys from Alabama, let alone sign them. So I'll stick with 4 for now with Beeman.
Okay.
Just, kind of give it a 60-40, if you will.
Yeah.
That 60 in favor of Alabama right now, just because I really do think it's going to come down to Alabama and Auburn. He's taken a couple other visits elsewhere, but I don't foresee those other schools when it really comes down to it really truly being like in the picture.
Okay. All right. I like it. We already talked about this one a little bit, but Cam Coleman is next on the list. Currently committed to Texas A&M, but as aforementioned, head coach gone. Looks like the position coach that was heavy in his recruiting will not be retained. What are you feeling about young Cam Coleman?
I'm going to go with a 7.5. I'm going
Okay.
to switch it up a little bit. In my mind, I'm viewing these as percentages.
Yeah. 75%. Gotcha.
I think this is a guy that when it comes down to signing day, this my belief is I think Auburn can pull this off. I
Mm,
really do. Um, Now it's going to be difficult because Mike Elko, I think, was a really good hire for
mhm.
Texas A&M. I think that changed a lot of things. Now Damian Craig's big because that's his position coach. That's kind of the main guy. You lose Jimbo Fisher. And it doesn't appear that Craig is going to be part of Elko's staff, like we mentioned earlier.
Mhm.
But I think Elko did a really good job at Duke, and so that's at Duke, right? You go to A&M, a lot more resources, a lot more talent. Um, that's just the truth. I mean, Duke's not the ideal job if you're a really good head coach.
Right.
But Elko did a phenomenal job there, and he had a really good quarterback, Riley Leonard. But um, so I think the Elko hire helps Texas A&M out a lot in this recruitment. I
Mhm.
think we saw the whole Mark Stoops saga where it was like looking like it was going to be Mark Stoops, and I think Auburn fans should probably be disappointed that it wasn't Mark Stoops because I think
Right.
helps them out in this Cam Coleman situation. I think Mike Elko is a much better hire than Mark Stoops for A&M. I think he's a better fit as far as what they're looking for. But yeah, no, I think Cam Coleman eventually does end up at Auburn. That's my feeling right now. I think I don't see a way where Auburn loses this because I don't think you ever seen a guy. Well, I'll put it this way: Hugh Freeze had a guy last season that he really wanted to go after. His name was Keldrick Falk. That was the #1 target, and he pushed so hard, and he got him.
Right.
This year, it's Cam Coleman. And we'll see if he has that same success, but I think he will.
Okay. All right. All right. Next, we have Eccles on the list. Eccles is probably, I'm going to say it's probably a little bit lower on the likelihood scale, but you tell me what you feel about young Eccles.
I'll go 5. Just
Okay.
kind of a 50-50 toss up right now. I think there are really 3 schools when it comes down to it: Auburn, Missouri, Texas A&M. Obviously, he's committed to A&M, but kind of exploring other options now that they've got that coaching change. One of our national guys actually put out a story recently about kind of the A&M guys reacting to the Elko hire, and Cohen Eccles likes the hire a lot. It appears so.
Okay.
We'll see how that one plays out down the stretch. He was here for the Iron Bowl. I think things went really well for everybody that was there this weekend, including Eccles. But this is a guy where, if Auburn wants him, and they do, they're going to push really hard for him because they've only got 1 offensive line committed right now in the 24 class. It's kind of a thin position group for the class as far as, there's not a ton of just insanely talented guys. It's not super deep. So it's kind of slim pickings, if you will, right now. But Cohen Eccles is a guy to kind of watch down the stretch. He's one of those final offensive line targets that I think Auburn does stand a chance at flipping him, and I think this week can really help their chances out a lot.
Okay. All right. Now this one, I'm actually, and I should have researched this a little bit more. The last name is Edwin. What is this one, and what's the story here?
This is Favor Edwin, and
Okay.
this is a guy. I mean, we've interviewed him a ton of times. He's one of the nicest kids in the world. But I'm gonna go 8. 8.3, 8.4, 8.5, whatever.
Okay.
I think when it comes down to it, I really think Auburn and Clemson are going to be the 2 schools that he's kind of battling it out with. And I want to give Auburn the edge here just because he's been to campus a lot. I mean, every time he talks about Auburn, his eyes light up. I think this is a kid that really likes Auburn. He's got a little bit of familiarity. And he's got a really interesting background, actually. We have him as a 3-star, but I think his upside is way higher than the 3-star potential, right? Condor Lou was also kind of a 3-star, and you've seen him come in. He's an incredible player. He's going to be your starting center next year. He's going to be your starting center the year after that, and then he might go to the NFL. Favor Edwin's going to be a little bit more of a project as far as getting in. Like once he gets to wherever he goes, if he goes to Auburn, it's going to be a guy where he sits for the first couple of years because he's only been playing football for about a year and a half. He came from Nigeria, and Colton Hood, the freshman quarterback for Auburn right now, is the one who introduced him to football. They both played at Eagles Landing Christian Academy in McDonough, Georgia, and so if Auburn lands Edwin, then that's going to be a guy who you're not going to see a lot of probably for the first 2 years, but he's going to end up being a good player wherever he goes. But right now, I give Auburn the edge in this one.
Okay. All right. We already mentioned this one a little bit. LJ McCrae, currently committed to Florida. Again, a position group coach out the door there. Pretty heavy in his recruitment. What would you put that on?
I'm going to do 3. This is a tough one. Auburn is kind of in the mix, kind of towards the final end, towards the final stretch of his original recruitment. Things change a little bit, now that the position group's out. But he's a Florida kid, and at the end of the day, I think it can be really tough to pull a lot of those Florida kids away from their home state, especially one that's committed to Florida. LJ McCrae is a phenomenal player. If Auburn were to pull that off, I mean, that's a guy that they can plug in and play right away in that defensive line. You know, him and TJ Lindsey are pretty close. I know TJ Lindsey's been talking to him a lot about, you know, hey, come on to Auburn, let's do this thing, and that's always very helpful. But I think, you know, I think Auburn finished like within his top half of that top group, right?
Mm.
I think it was Auburn, Florida, and Florida State that when it came down to it, I think those were the three schools that were really in the mix. And I think out of those three, I think Auburn's three, just because there's a lot of connections in Florida and Florida State, just being from Florida. And so I don't like Auburn's chances to pull this guy away from Florida as much as maybe some other flip targets.
Okay. All right. So next on this list here is Roger, Sali Aaga. Any thoughts on this young man, the tight end?
Yeah, it's looking like Auburn believes that, you know, they're gonna bring back pretty much everybody from their tight end room. So you'd like to pick up, you know, a tight end or two. They've got one committed right now, Martavius Collins, but I think Sali Aaga is a clear upgrade from Collins. I think he's a little bit of a better player, a little higher caliber player than Collins. So if you can get Sali Aaga, you take him. And I think he took his official visit this past weekend. I think things went really well. I think he really likes Auburn. But I'm gonna say 4, just because he's a West Coast guy and he's got the Oregon offer, he's got the Utah offer, and I think I don't know, man. I think it's tough whenever you're a West Coast guy. You've got those two offers. You got those two. Rest in peace, the Pac-12. You got a Big 10 and Big 12 offer now. Sorry, that's so
Right.
sad, man. The Pac-12 disappearing. I'm gonna miss Pac-12 After Dark so much. Phenomenal conference, miss it. But anytime you have a West Coast guy, I think it's always tough to pull them away from their home state or from the Oregon, because Oregon kind of had that, you know, whoever they want over there, they do a pretty good job of getting from the West Coast, them and Washington. So I'm gonna go 4 for now, but decision soon. Decision is Friday.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
All right. Next one. Very up and down recruitment situation with this one. Jouis Solomon, former Auburn commit, current South Carolina commit. What are we feeling about Jouis Solomon and flipping back to Auburn?
I'm gonna go 1 to 2, somewhere in that range. Just because, you know, it's always possible, but this is one I don't foresee happening. It's very rare that you have a kid flip back to where he had flipped from initially.
Mhm.
And I think he really likes South Carolina. I think it's I haven't seen it doesn't seem like there's too much interest, you know, in Auburn. He hasn't visited Auburn. He hasn't, you know, he hasn't been to a game since flipping his commitment. And so I don't think he's going to flip back. I think that's just too much right now. I think he's got his mindset on South Carolina.
All right. And then last but certainly not least, potentially recommitting reclassifying to the class of 24 has been rumored. Their current Alabama wide receiver commit Ryan Williams.
I saw this kid play a couple weeks ago, and he's phenomenal, like just electric. And this is a guy where, like, everybody's gonna want him. I think it will come down to Auburn and Alabama whenever he does sign, whether that be in 25 or 24. I think it's looking more likely that it's going to be 24, just because I don't know. If you watch him play, there's nothing else this kid can do at the high school level. I mean, he's playing easy, like difficulty on Madden or NCAA, whatever you want to call it. I don't think there's anything left for him to achieve at the high school level. And so I think you'll probably see him reclassify. I think he's gonna have a final decision and kind of announce whether or not he is reclassifying in December. But if he does reclassify, he'll sign in February. So he won't be an early enrollee or an early signee, which means he can take official visits in January. I think Auburn's going to get one if he does. If he does reclassify, Auburn will get an official visit. And I think that's where, if you're Auburn, that's where you got to make your money, right? That's where you got to, convince this kid, hey, don't go to Alabama, come here. Part of their message is, hey, don't go over there to just be another guy. Come here and just be like be one of the legends. Be the first guy in 15, 16 years to have a 1,000-yard season. And Auburn's got a ton of playmakers right now. And so, this is the thing where if Auburn, let's talk a little hypotheticals right now. If Auburn finishes really strong, they're able to flip Cam Coleman, okay? Then you bring Ryan Williams in for an official visit, and you say, hey, look at who we just signed. If you play next to these guys, there's no way you're going to be double team, triple team, because you can't leave Perry Thompson or Cam Coleman open, right? That's got to be a huge part of their pitch if they're able to flip Cam Coleman. On the other side, they don't flip Cam Coleman. Still, Perry Thompson, Malcolm Simmons, Bryce Kane, really good players that I think you're going to see on the field next year. Auburn's got one of its best receiving classes in a long time. They've got some really good players that are gonna play. So I think if you could get a guy like Ryan Williams, oh my gosh, this receiving room would be so incredible. It would be like something that Auburn fans would just get super excited for. There'd be a lot of high expectations for this offense next spring. But right now the challenge is Alabama, because it is Alabama, and so I'll go 40%, like 4 out of 10 right now as far as the chances to flip Ryan Williams. So the essentially I look at it like 50-50, where Auburn and Alabama are coming down the stretch. But because he's committed to Alabama, Alabama's going to get that slight favor, obviously. So 60-40, favor of Alabama right now. But Auburn's right there. Auburn's where they want to be.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. All right. Well, we are going to take a quick break and get a word from our sponsor today. We'll be right back with some questions for you there from the chat. But before we do, we definitely want to get you guys to head over to rogueshop.com. I know there's a ton of anxiety out there for Auburn fans in terms of where this portal class is going to finish, where this portal class is going to lose and gain as portal season comes up, where this signing class is going to finish as early signing day is on the brink of getting here. Rogueshop.com can help you out with that stress, anxiety that you might be feeling. Make sure you head over there, use code REPORT. America's #1 online dispensary is the Rogue Shop. Let's head over to the comment section and see what you all are buzzing about this morning. A lot of comments about basketball. I definitely saw what happened last night with Alabama. But we got a game tonight, and hopefully Auburn does well. But let's see what we've got for Caleb here. Question from Ant Robinson. What surprise players showed up at the Iron Bowl? Was there anybody who made a visit at the Iron Bowl that you weren't expecting to see there?
I think the biggest, there were a couple. Jaden Perlot, the Georgia commit, the Georgia outside linebacker commit. I wasn't expecting him to be there, but I kind of was. You know what I mean? Like, there's always a chance. He's been to a lot of Auburn games this year, and they've always kind of been like last minute, like just pop in because he's close. Goes to Buford. This is a guy that's I keep saying that this is a guy like I'm Chris Collinsworth or something, but Perlot is he's a good player, plays over there at Buford, really talented program. And I think this is someone that Auburn would love to have, if they could really get him. And I think obviously he's got Auburn high just from the fact that he's visited so much. And it's not like he's visiting for just the Alabama game or the Georgia game, right? He's not just, let's go see a good game, let's go get a free ticket. No, I think there's genuine interest in Auburn from him. That's good. Kevin Riley was also there, and they don't have a running back in the Miami commit. They don't have a running back. Auburn doesn't in the 24 class. So it's interesting to see him there. It's good to see him there, I think, if you're Auburn. So we'll kind of see how that one plays out down the stretch.
Okay. Let's see here. Miller House asks, do we have a shot at getting Bradley Shaw?
Bradley's a really good player out of Hoover, but I don't think Auburn is in the mix. I think Auburn is actually rather cool on Bradley Shaw, if that makes sense. I think Auburn's pretty content with who they've got at the linebacker position now. You've got Jamonte Waller, you've got Joe Phillips, D'Angelo Barber, DeMarcus Riddick. So your linebacker room, you're feeling pretty good. So I don't think Auburn is really in the mix for Bradley Shaw, nor do I think Auburn is really pushing for him.
Okay. Next up here, Lisa Daniel asks, Caleb, is Dylan Gentry a good commit? He is a good friend with Cam Coleman. For those that don't know, Auburn just recently, I believe, gave a preferred walk-on status to Dylan Gentry, who
Yeah,
is
they offered
also
Dylan Gentry. Yeah, this is a good move. He's a good player. I haven't looked at his film or anything, but if you're starting at Central, if you're playing wide receiver at Central, you're pretty good. That receiving room has a bunch of really good guys. Cam, this guy Dylan Gentry, and Dalen Upshaw. So I think Gentry plays slot for Central. So if you play for Central just in general, and you're seeing the field, you're a pretty good player.
okay. And then Corey Weber says, is Auburn content with not taking a running back in the class of 24?
I think yes. I think you would think that you feel pretty good that everybody from this room will return next season. And you kind of saw down the stretch, Jarquez Hunter in the final games this season. Jarquez Hunter kind of found that rhythm that we've seen out of him. Damari Alston showed you what he's capable of in an Iron Bowl. That kid's going to be an incredible running back for Auburn. Jeremiah Cobb, you saw him a little bit, flashes. I watched him play a lot in high school. He's going to be a really good player. So you got a strong running back room. Brian Matee, I think he might have a year left.
He does, yeah.
Don't quote me on that, but that running back room is strong, man. They're solid. I think you feel really good and not pressured to take a running back in this class, especially when you have your eyes set on such a talented guy in the 25 class, Alvin Henderson. Like you got to I think you go all in for a 25 running back, and you go all in on Alvin Henderson, who's just a record holder in the state of Alabama when it comes to rushing yards, touchdowns, everything. He's just really good player too. So I think if you're Auburn, you don't feel any pressure to take a 24 running back. You go all in, you go out, and you get Alvin Henderson. I think that's your goal right now.
Okay. All right. I have one question for you. A name that was pretty hot on a lot of message boards, and people felt good about him, but haven't heard anything recently. Kid Khalil House, the offensive lineman. Is Auburn still in it for him?
I don't think so. I don't think Auburn's really in the mix for him anymore.
Okay. All right. Well, we will see where this class ends. I think, as you said, they have. Well, let's see. Before we go, there were a couple of JUCO, I think, guys that have gotten offers recently. How are you feeling about some of the JUCO offers that have gone out and where they sit with Auburn right now?
Yeah, I think you're going to see a couple of. I think you'll see Auburn pull a couple of JUCO guys. I think Seth Wilfred is probably the most likely pull right now. That's who I feel the most confident that Auburn has a really good shot at landing right now. He's at a Snow College, so they're gonna put Keontae Scott.
I was about to say Keontae, yeah.
Auburn's done really good, I think, out of Snow College, getting some players. Keontae Scott coming out of there. I mean, I was telling my roommate this. There was a lot, like Keontae was getting a lot of hate for a muff punt that he didn't have, right? Just because it was Coy Moore and everything, and it's like Hugh Freeze said, and I love to touch on this real quick if you don't mind, but
sure.
It's really sad to see the hate that some of these kids get for a play.
Right.
Because there's nobody that feels worse about it than
Absolutely.
the player itself, because they know that mistake was really costly, and so they're getting a ton of hate online, and like you've seen it, man. And it's just sad. It really is, because at the end of the day, these are kids. They're just playing a game, man. They're in their early 20s, their late teens, whatever. But Keontae was getting a lot of hate, and from all the interviews that we've done with him over the season, there is not anybody on this roster there might be a couple guys, but dude, Keontae Scott loves Auburn. Like this is somebody that just puts their heart and soul into this program and into this university, and he is not deserving of all that hate. And it wasn't even him. Like
Right.
that's the crazy part. But it's just sad to see, man. But anyways, so if y'all are doing that, stop. Just stop, okay? Um, I don't think I think it's a very small percentage of the Auburn fan base because for the most part, 99% of the Auburn fan base is just incredible at showing support. But there's that 1% that is just yeah, they're just going after guys, and they got to stop that. All right.
Right.
Um, but Seth Wilford, the offensive lineman out of Snow College, they're going to put Keontae, I'd assume, with him as the player host, and that's a good pickup if you can get him. JUCO guys can come in and really make an instant impact. You saw it with Xavier Too Tall Miller this past season. That was your starting right tackle for the year. So you bring some more guys in, get some depth, really kind of raise the ceiling, raise the floor, whatever you want to do it. Whatever makes your team better starts in the trenches this year, whether it's JUCO guys or transfer portal.
Yeah, agreed. All right. Well, hopefully we'll see some good things progressing for Auburn over the next couple of weeks. Transfer portal opens coming up Monday. Going to be a lot of names flying around coming up here soon about who's entering, who could potentially be coming this direction. But once the portal opens, we'll get back into that more heavily. Caleb, before you get out of here, in case the people don't know, tell the people where they can find all of the great work that you have going right now.
Yeah, we're over there at auburnsports.com, home of the bunker. It's a great message board, lots of fun stuff to read. There's never a shortage of content on as far as stuff to read over there, and then also
That's
just
true.
the threads that happen. Lots of things that involve Auburn, and lots of threads that don't involve Auburn at all. But I mean, you could spend hours just scrolling and reading and getting in internet fights and everything like that. But go check us out over there on auburnsports.com for a lot of great content. We got, BMAT, Stoltz, Henry Patton, JG, the whole squad over there, writing all the time. But you can also follow me on Twitter at CalebJ_rivals. I'll repost all of our stuff over there if you just want to see what's going on as far as recruiting and things like that. So just go check us out over there. That's where you can find me and all my coworkers.
Okay, awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you taking some time dropping in with us this morning. We're going to get out of here. As always, the morning drop is sponsored by rogueshop.com. Make sure you guys head over to rogueshop.com. Use code REPORT when you do that. That'll get you a little something off of your purchase. We are out of here until tonight. We'll be back with the midweek report, talking a little bit more Auburn basketball and doing some more wrap up on this current college football season. Before you get out of here, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it with somebody. And we'll talk to y'all the next time. Until the next time. And as always, War Eagle.